All right, so what I'm going to do is make sure the 2x squared and the negative 9 are in my box. And then when I do my puzzle, I add to negative 17, but I multiply to first times last. So negative 18. Okay, so think about it. What numbers are going to add to negative 17, but multiply to negative 18? Negative 1 and?
No, positive 1 and negative 18.
There we go, good. So I do 1x, negative 18x, and then pull out my GCFs. And my factoring is 2x plus 1 and x minus 9. Can I have someone raise their hand and tell me why the 2 in part B was outside the parentheses, but the 2 in part D is inside the parentheses? Can I have someone raise their hand and tell me why the 2 in part B is outside, but the 2 in part D is inside? Michaela? You got it. On B, that's perfect, Michaela. On B, I factored it out. It was a GCF, but on D, I couldn't. It was inside the box. Good. Okay, questions? All right. So today we're going to start learning how to solve a quadratic equation. So when I say to solve an equation, I mean like, let's look at part A here. This one's not a quadratic, right? This is linear. But when I say solve, I mean get x alone. What would be my first step to getting x alone on part A here? Divide by what? Good. So x would equal 0, okay? Does your part B look like mine? All messed up? No? Okay, good. So yours does it look like this? Okay, order of operations. I'm trying to get x alone. I'm solving again. What do I do first? You can distribute, but remember I'm trying to get things away from the x, not give it to the x. So I'm actually going to divide by 3 again. Does that make sense? Anyone? Because I'm trying to get things away from the x to solve it. Then subtract 1. Hey, what was the highest exponent in both of those equations? What was the highest exponent in both of those equations? 1. How many answers did they have? Anyone? How many answers did they have for x? You guys with me? How many numbers were answers for x? 1. On the first one, x was 0. That's just one answer, right? On the second one, x was negative 1. That's just one answer. Do you see what I'm saying? And the highest exponent was 1, right? Okay, let's keep that in mind for in a minute. Okay, the zero product property states that anything times 0 is what? 0. Okay, so we're going to put it all together. Notice A, 2A, is the same one we just factored up top, right? You with me? You guys, are we awake? Do we need to have class standing up today? Are we there? Where's my A1 class that's normally so peppy? Okay. Oh, yeah? Okay. Notice how on 2a, this is the same one we just factored, right? Yeah? Okay. So if I wanted to pretend like the x equals 0 wasn't there, and I just said solve by factoring, okay, then let's put this into its factored form that we just got, which was what? P minus 1 times P minus 9, right? Okay, we're going to make a bunch of connections here in just a sec. Okay, notice how the whole point of the factors is that it's two things being multiplied together, right? Zero product property says that anything times 0 is 0, right? So if I want to solve this equation to make the whole thing equal 0, well, what if just that first factor is 0? What number would make that first factor 0? Plus 1, right? Think of it like this. P minus 1 equals 0. So P would equal 1, right? If P is 1, okay, if P is 1, what does this first factor equal? If P is 1, what does this first factor equal? What is it? Guys, are the questions I'm asking hard?
You're making me sound really confusing.
Okay, I don't know, understand why though.
The one?
If P is 1, then what does this first factor equal?
0.
0. Because 1 minus 1 is 0, right? If P is 1, what does this second factor equal? -8, right? But that doesn't even matter because if P is 1 and the first factor is 0, 0 times anything is 0. So 1 is one of my answers. That's going to make this equation true, right? Because when I'm solving an equation, I'm trying to make it true. You guys with me? Okay, so then what about here? If I have P minus 9 equals 0, what makes that equation true? Minus 9? So if P is 9, what does the first factor equal? 8. And if P is 9, what does the second factor equal? 0. Well, 8 times 0 is 0. So here's the whole point of this. If I'm going to solve by factoring, I just need to take each factor and find what makes it 0, and then the whole thing will be 0. So guess what my answers are? What does P equal? What was the highest exponent in part A?
2.
How many answers did it have?
2.
Huh. Weird, huh? When I had a highest exponent of 1, there was 1 answer, right? And when I had a highest exponent of 2, there was 2 answers. We'll talk about that more next time, but that's called the fundamental theorem of algebra. The highest degree is how many answers it has, okay? Let's try another one. B. We already factored this one, right? So this one factored into n minus 9 and n plus 9. Okay, zero product property says that anything times 0 is 0. So the point of that is saying that if one of these factors is 0, then the whole thing is 0. Right? If one factor is 0, then the whole thing is 0, because 0 times anything is 0, right? So let's take each factor and find what makes it 0. Okay, the big idea behind solving by factoring is because of ZPP, which is zero product property. Just set each factor to 0 individually. That's our big idea.